Have you ever wondered how AI can be used to supercharge estimating or quoting in your business? In this video, I'm going to go over the 6 steps that I used to create accurate estimating automations that work in businesses just like yours. If you don't know who I am, my name is Aidan and I'm the co-founder of Opulence AI, which is an AI-first agency aimed at targeting some of the biggest problems that face the construction industry. I make these videos to hopefully give you some more information, share some of my knowledge, and maybe make it click in your head for how this type of technology can truly affect your business in positive ways. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive in. So here are the 6 strategies that I use to create reliable AI quoting systems. So the first one is I need to clearly define the inputs of the system. The second is I have a couple of prompting techniques. Third is good context engineering. Fourth is gates or checkpoints. The fifth is feedback loops. And the sixth is evaluations. Now, in order to demonstrate all of these 6 steps, I'm actually going to be going over in detail a estimating system that I built a couple months ago for a kitchen remodeler. So this automation demonstrates all of these 6 steps, and we're going to go through it in detail. So first up is defining our inputs. Now, what does this mean? So there's a couple of questions or things you need to figure out first before you want to implement or create one of these systems. So the first question is you need to decide if this is going to be an internal quoting tool or if it's going to be a customer facing tool. Now, when I've built these different types of estimators, there's a couple versions that act as glorified calculators that help augment existing project estimators on your business team. And then there's other quoters that act as a completely standalone system that customers interact with, which enables them to get instant quotes right away. Usually those types of systems are at the forefront of advertising materials, and it kind of serves as a really good way to get customers excited and get them to actually respond to your advertising. Now, the second point is you need to define exactly what data you need to calculate an actual estimate. So I'm sure that there's already a process that you have within your business to create an estimate. And essentially what we're doing is we're just taking all of that existing knowledge that you have in your head, and we need to put it down in a system. We need to jot it down so an AI can understand it. So whether maybe you have a scratch paper or maybe you need to go and review your actual estimation process, but ask yourself, what is all of the different inputs that I need from a customer, from a client, in order to actually create a prepared and accurate, reliable estimate? And once you can answer that question, that's exactly what we're going to use to build the system. And then this next point, which says turn that data into clear, specific input questions. This reflects the system that we've built today, which is a customer-facing estimator. So it's important that we use these data points that you need captured and form them as questions, because in a customer-facing system, we need to make sure that these questions prompt out the right answers. And I'll show you that in a form we've created. Let's go ahead and pop over to our form, and I'll show you exactly what I mean about this. So this is a form I whipped up in order to demonstrate this system. It's connected to our backend N8N actual quoting. So whenever anybody submits this form, it will actually kick off the estimation process. But for this first point, all I want you to do is just take a look at the questions I'm asking. So do you plan to stay in your home after the remodel, or are you looking to upgrade the kitchen so you can sell your home? What type of kitchen project are you envisioning? Just a facelift involving some cosmetic changes, or a full-scale remodel where we gut the kitchen and start from the ground up? Now, all of these questions were taken from when we were consulting with an actual kitchen remodeler company, because they knew their process best. If you are building these types of solutions or this type of estimating solution for businesses, it is super important that you allow the business to create the input questions, because you can't really guess, and unless you're like a seasoned professional in that field, you're not going to know the best questions to get to prompt out the right data. So a lot of these questions have to do with a price, a material cost. If you want new cabinets, what style do you have in mind? That's a finish or a trim question. We have countertops, appliances. I like to keep these questions like an open text field, because it gives the customer a lot of freedom when answering it and can get them excited, as opposed to them just having to flick through a couple of single select questionnaire forms. So cool, let's go ahead and populate this form out with some data, and then let's actually start walking through the system. All right, so we went ahead and got some input data in here. Super cool. Let's go ahead and submit it and get over to the N8N side. All right, so cool. Now this data is coming through. All right, so we obviously have defined our inputs. We know that we needed to get our data from somebody in the field, or you needed to go and look at your actual estimation process and form those into questions that you could ask your customer. Cool. We had that checked off, and we actually have that data now in the system, as you can see here. So what happens next? So the next thing that I'm going to talk to you guys about is different prompting techniques that I use in order to get my actual estimator agent to create a better estimating output. So here are some of the high-level notes. So give the AI a defined role, tasks, and tools like you would train a new employee. Let's go ahead and pop into our actual prompt to see what I mean about this. You're an estimator agent for Opulence Construction. Opulence Construction specializes in kitchen remodels and for residential homes. It is your job to prepare accurate and timely kitchen remodel estimate ranges for customers upon receiving their request to do so. You will analyze your inputs, use your given tools, and come up with a reasonable time and price range that respects Opulence's construction delivery speed, quality standards, and budget expectations. Super straightforward, just kind of setting up the goals and the high-level role of the agent. So the next thing that I do in estimator agents is I actually like to create calculations or formulas for them to carry out. And I do this because it helps keep the estimates within a standardized range as opposed to just kind of willy-nilly. It helps with making sure that the estimates are a little bit more reliable and consistent. So you'll see over here, my tasks section just outlines exactly what to do in sequential order, but you'll see here I have refer to the calculations to perform section in the prompt. So if we go down here to the calculations to perform, I actually outline which calculations this agent needs to perform. So pull the correct kitchen remodel cost per square foot based on the specified finish level, basic, mid, or high, multiply by the project size, add overhead to 10 to 15, profit 20 to 15, and contingency 5 to 10%. And then output the low and high cost range as dollars. So here's the actual formula. The size square foot times the low rate times the high rate, 1 plus the overhead plus profit. And then I also gave a similar equation for a timeline, because an estimate, you want to know how much it's going to cost me and potentially how long is it going to take. Another really good thing to include in your prompts is good/bad examples. So I always like to do, hey, here are some inputs, some simple versions of what the inputs would be. Here's an output, and then say why it's good. Here's another input, and then say a different reason why it's good, and then you can give 2 bad examples. And this really helps you narrow or zoom in on maybe some mistakes that the agent is making. You can put that in the bad output example or the good output example, and then it has a better idea of what types of outputs are going to be good. And then it kind of helps it it helps it not give an output that would be considered fine by the prompting structure, but actually seems to be pretty messed up by your standards when you're reading it. Now for this last point down here, use reliable math-capable models. This is a good point, but something that is important to consider is O1 is like $15 per million output tokens. O3 I'm sure is around that. Don't know why that went away. And then Sonnet, I'm not sure because I don't actually really like Sonnet. So I tend to really like to use 4.1. But what you can do is you can just attach the calculator tool, and then it has a lot easier time making those calculations. And you say you need to use it for every single calculation you make. It gives these LLMs a reliable way to actually use math, for a pretty cheap cost. So that's a quick high overview level of the prompting techniques I use. Let's go ahead and talk about the context engineering. So this is a really, really important step in order to make your agent give estimates that are very accurate to how you would give them for other clients. So you want to feed the model your historical pricing and estimate data. If you don't have this so far, you're going to really want to get it, or you're going to want to create some. So you can use CSV Excel files for structured reference. You want to include standard labor rates, material costs, and overheads. This helps kind of have the agent route into actually complete that formula we were talking about. Let me go ahead and show you the pricing database that I created for this demo right here. So here's a really good example of what is a really strong, powerful pricing history database. So We have a bunch of different jobs here, around 100. We have the zip codes of them, the regions, the area of the square foot of the job, the layout, the finish level, the countertop, backsplash, flooring, appliance, electrical, all of these different types of things that are specifically tailored for kitchen remodels. And this just helps the agent actually check, okay, here is the user's inputs. Let me go check my pricing historical database. Is there anything I can find that's similar to this? And it uses it as incredible context, so it doesn't create these some crazy estimates that are completely out of range. So because we have this historical prices, we actually give this to the agent as a tool. And let's see what the agent basically thinks of after it hits its tool. So you'll see it's going to hit the historical prices. It's going to return them all, and it's going to be able to sift through that to find the more relevant prices, and it's going to use its calculator to do the actual calculation, and then boom, here's its output. Okay, so we have $148,000 to $215,000. I think that's a little high. So given your 220 square foot kitchen, blah blah blah, there's its output. So in case the agent has, way too high of outputs, or, you don't trust just this one agent itself, that's why we move on to our gates and checkpoints. So there's two different types of gates and checkpoints that I use. I use an agent in the loop and then also a human in the loop. So I added a validator agent who is specifically mapped at checking specific points in the estimate. So it's going to double check math. It's also going to compare this quote against historical quotes and give it a pass or fail. And then after that, I actually have a human in the loop where it will send an email to me and say, hey, here is the proposed quote for this customer and these project scope details. It doesn't make sense, or does it not? And then you can pass some feedback back and have that quote regenerated based on your feedback. So let's go ahead and pass this over to the validator agent and see what he has to say. So the validator agent actually failed him, which is awesome because I would too. And let's see what it said. The estimate of 148 to 215 is 35 to 90% above the historical and calculator guidebook ranges for similar projects. Historical data for the high-end kitchens in similar size, even with custom features and structural changes, cluster between 75 and 120K, rarely exceeding 140. So the estimator is doing good. We're now going to pass this to our revisions agent, who's going to take the data or take this feedback, and he's actually going to basically update those ranges to better reflect the validator's output. So cool. Now he did that, and then what's really cool about this is it's actually going to pass it right back into the validator agent, and that's going to say, hey, is the actual revisions agent output good or bad? And let's see what it said. So it passed it. Good job. First revisions agent, you did well. And then we can actually start to pass this along to our second gate. Now it's important to notice here that if you continue to, this is a really good checkpoint to set up maybe an evaluation, or if you're working with a client installing this, or you're installing it in your own business, this is where you would probably want to massage this, and you use the validator's output to then go and change this guy's prompt. So based on the fact that he outputted a estimate that was way high out of the range, you could then update the prompt or the calculation and say, these are the standard rates for like the highest. Okay, we zoom it in. You can use that basically to inform better prompting for your estimator agent. But this also serves to catch those edge cases using the AI before we actually use a human in the loop. But now that we have a pass, let's go ahead and get to the human in the loop section. So I'm using this Gmail send and response node, which I have to update because I updated the form input. So let's go ahead and update the form inputs. Make sure we can get all this data in. So I was iterating this system a little bit, so I just went ahead and I needed a place to where I could summarize the project. So in this AI agent, I just made a summary of scope. So now I can use that summary of scope to put it in the human in the loop so that the contractor will know exactly what they're getting. But let's make sure that this can actually get past the first revisions agent. So let's let it run through until we can get through the true section, and then we'll be able to try that human in the loop. All right, so we got the data coming through now. Let's go ahead and try the human in the loop step. So now I'm in my inbox and I can see here, new estimate needs approval. Let's go ahead and check it out. This project is a forever kitchen full gut remodel of a 220 square foot with premium custom cabinetry, an open wall to connect, spates, quartz, new stainless appliances, ungraded lighting, a large center island, engineered wood floors, and special built-ins. So as a scope there, we can go ahead and respond. Hey, so maybe I don't agree with the project cost. And let's say I think based on my years of experience, I think we should drop it by $20,000 and add a week to the timeline range. Okay, let's go ahead and submit that. Cool. As you can see, that came back in. Let's go ahead and pin this so we can use it in here. So this node just classifies whether it failed or passed the human in the loop step. And because it failed it, we want to then now go to this second revisions agent. And this revisions agent, its total job is to just go and make those changes to the estimate that was asked for it to do. So let's go ahead and click it. Okay, cool. So that revisions agent, as you can see, added those 2 changes that were asked for. Perfect. This is how we use gates to ensure that there are stopping points for each of these estimates in order to make sure that they're super accurate. If there is this human in the loop step and the whole point of the system is to get back to the customers right away, wouldn't that actually kind of take away the instantness of it? And the answer is yes. But the reality of the situation is when you're implementing these estimators into businesses, you want to have a setup period, or I like to say like a system tuning period. And for the first week or 2 weeks, however long it takes, I always keep the human in the loop step alive because it helps the contractor or the business person see which estimates the system is producing so that they can give structured feedback. And then the end goal is eventually we can remove that human in the loop step once we can guarantee that the system is producing accurate estimates every single time. But you're not going to be able to get it to produce accurate estimates unless you're working hand in hand with the business, or if you're a business owner, if you're working hand in hand with the AI engineer. So that finishes up those gates and checkpoints. So now let's move on to the feedback loop section. So feedback loops are used essentially to continue to populate your database of good estimates, to continue to give your agent, your estimating agent, great context on good estimates. So this stage is super, super simple. Essentially all it is every time there is a good estimate given, we want to then just put that back into a database so the agent can go and refer to that once again. And it will just stack his proof or knowledge of good estimates. So the way I have that actually working here is after the changes are made, then it actually will activate 2 different steps. There's one that will actually deliver the estimate, and the second will actually deliver the feedback loop. And this one is just essentially going to format all the correct data. So it's in a stored estimate version. And actually, because I was using an older version of a form, I need to go ahead and update these input fields. But we can do that from the validator agent's project scope summary. And then we can also go and give the quote details or the estimate details here. Awesome. Let's execute that. Cool. It should be outputting it in a way that can be stored in our database. Cool. That should be stored. And now every single time our agent will go and pull on this historical pricing database, we'll know that there are past estimates that are stored there. So the last thing that needs to happen here is our estimate needs to actually get delivered. So what happens is this agent is just tasked with formatting it in a way that can fit into the HTML template. And then that template is then created into a PDF and attached to the email.
just a quick side note for if you guys are AI engineers or workflow engineers, you can use this template, the HTML template node, and then this PDF for me node, which is a community node, and you can set it to convert HTML to PDF. You go ahead and you plug your HTML code in there, and then that is going to output a PDF named data. And then if you want that to be sent in an email, all you have to do is go to options and go to attachments, and then in the attachment field name, just make sure it matches data there. And then you can also put your message, and then this will actually deliver your estimate with a PDF on it. So as we can see here, the estimate came through. There is the price ranges, cost allocations. This is a really rough PDF version. You know, you can store a lot of really cool information here or calls to action for your customers, but all in all, that's the system working. One last really important thing that is on our agenda to talk about is evaluations. Now, this kind of goes back into what I was talking about with the feedback loop, but in order to actually get this working, or an estimating system working 100%, you can't just build it and call it a day. It's a very much iterative process where you work with a business owner or maybe in your own business, and you build a system maybe through this type of skeleton template. You input all of your data, and then you need to run tests, just like a scientist or an experiment or an experiment. You need to run tests to make sure that it is consistently giving within a specific, 10% range of a quote that you would give. A really good way to set up an evaluation too is to compare the AI quotes versus the actual jobs that you maybe have in your database. So don't just expect to set up a system like this and get it completely right the first time. If you have the right agents in place and you have the right data for that agent to get access to, and you have the right instructions, it still will probably not be exactly what you need. So you need to run these tests. You need to be able to compare it against actual estimates you've given. And then once that agent is delivering within that normal estimated or quote range, then you're good to go. And then maybe you can think about removing some of those human in the loop steps. But I hope this video was helpful for anybody who was watching it. If you are interested, if you are a construction business and you're looking to create an AI strategy or maybe get one of these AI solutions implemented in your business, you can reach out at opulencefunnels.com, or you can go to our website, which is at opulencefunnels.com. If you want to grab this automation template, you can go to the Opulence AI School community, which I'll also have linked in the description down below. And if you're looking to just see more kind of educational content or cool content about what you can do with AI, just go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I try to make plenty of YouTube videos that are all from builds that I create to help demonstrate what this technology is capable of. So thank you for watching.